All right, hi everyone. Great to see you all on the call. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Max Antman. I'm a associate at Nothing But Nats.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ivanovich. I'm a director on our global health team.
Good evening. My name is Amma Boateng. I'm the campaign coordinator here at Nothing But Nats.
We are so excited that you are all coming to the Leadership Summit in less than 1 week. We have a lot of information to go over tonight. And if you have questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the question and answer box in the below area. You can also put them in the chat box, and there will be 2 sections throughout the presentation where we will answer questions. So as you're thinking of questions, please put them in the chat box. For those who are calling in and are not able to see us, hello, welcome. We'll be explaining things pretty well throughout the presentation. So if for some reason you don't understand something because you don't have any visual, don't worry about it. We'll try to explain it as well as possible. And if you put a question in the chat box, we will answer it to the best of our ability towards the end. I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with you all so that you can follow along as we're going through. And again, if you have any questions, please put them down below. All right, so you should be seeing a PowerPoint presentation and us in a little box in the corner. And we're gonna try and go through all of these things clearly and make sure that you all have all the information you could possibly need for the Leadership Summit coming weekend and into next week. Throughout this call, we are going to talk a little bit about the agenda, what is happening at the Leadership Summit when you arrive next Sunday, March 24th. We're going to go through some logistics, talk about transportation, hotel, attire. We're going to talk about how best to prepare. What should you be doing in the lead up to the Leadership Summit? What should you be doing right now to make sure you are as prepared as possible? And then we're going to go into a little bit of one of the areas that we are advocating for on the Hill, which is the Global Fund to Fight Tuberculosis, HIV, and Malaria. Some of you may be familiar with this important program. There are a lot of updates that Elizabeth Ivanovich is going to get into in a little bit. So first things first, we are going to talk about the agenda. If any of this is unclear, a lot of it was sent to you previously in an email. We will also send information following this webinar to make sure that you have everything you need. So if this is redundant or repetitive, it just means that you've read the materials very well, which we appreciate. And I apologize if we're going over anything you already know. So when you all arrive at the summit, there will already be people here. The Champions Council, which is a select group of our high-level champions, are going to be attending programming on Sunday morning. They are going to have programming between 9 a.m. and around noon on Sunday, March 24th. If you are not a member of the Champions Council and you know who you are, if you are, you will not be able to come to this morning programming. So if you come to the hotel on Sunday morning and you're hanging out or checking into your rooms early, totally fine. Just keep in mind that you're not going to be able to actually check in and attend the programming with us until that afternoon at 3 p.m. when registration for the general sessions will open. So from 3 to 4 is going to be general registration, followed by welcoming remarks by our Executive Director, Margaret McDonald. We're then going to do an icebreaker led by our champion, Ashmi Desai, who's a postdoctoral associate at the University of Colorado. We're going to hear from Michael Scott Peters, who's the UN Youth Observer to the United Nations, and that is going to be, he's going to be interviewed by a member of our Champions Council as well. This will be followed by a Malaria 101 and Malaria 102 session led by 2 of the amazing people on our global health team. For folks that have been to the summit before, you will be attending a Malaria 102 session that goes a little bit more in depth into our work. For those who this is their first time being with us at a Leadership Summit, you will attend a Malaria 101 session. From 6 to 6:40, that will be from 6 to 6:40. There will then be a short break followed by a dinner reception for all attendees that evening, as well as a champion award ceremony. That's going to be Sunday. So a pretty light day for everyone, but a really enjoyable day and opportunity for champions and folks that are attending the Leadership Summit to get to know one another, to schmooze and learn a little bit more about our work in an intimate setting. At registration at 3 o'clock, you will receive a swag bag with a t-shirt and other swag items, as well as your folder for the weekend. Your folder is going to have a lot of important information. There will also be snacks in your folder that are for breaks or when you get hungry in between meals throughout the summit. There will be enough snacks in there for the duration of the event. And if you run out, you can always let us know. But that's kind of a few of the things that you're going to get when you check in with us at the beginning of the event. Registration starts at 3 p.m., as you can see on the board, but checking into the hotel, if you're staying at the hotel with us, doesn't actually happen until 4 p.m. For many of you, you'll be able to come and check into your hotel rooms early. The hotel does allow people to check in early as rooms are available. But if for some reason you get to the hotel and you are not able to check into your hotel room early, the hotel concierge will hold your bags. You can attend the programming with us. And as you see on the screen, there's a large break in between 6:40 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. when you'll be able to go back and check into your hotel rooms. But for the majority of you, we're confident that you'll be able to check in before the programming starts. So encourage you to get there before 3 or 3:30 so that you can check into your hotel rooms and get to registration with enough time to be in your seats, ready for programming to start at 4 p.m. There will be many champions featured throughout the summit in different capacities. They will be interviewing people and on panels. So make sure to keep an eye out for your fellow champions, fellow attendees who are participating in the summit in different ways. And make sure to be posting on social media that your friend Ashmi Desai from Colorado is leading an amazing icebreaker, and we're really happy to see that she's involved in this work. We encourage you to get to know one another and then support each other as you're involved throughout the weekend. If you are not coming to, actually, I'll leave it there for a moment. So that's Sunday. I'm going to move to Monday. Monday is our most important day of programming. Breakfast is bright and early, 8 to 9 a.m. in our general plenary space, which will be very clearly marked and easy to find. 9 to 9:30 is going to be welcome remarks by Kathy Calvin, the President and CEO of the UN Foundation, followed by a panel about sharing our stories to create change. We're going to hear a little bit from a representative from UNICEF, talk about our work in Haiti, and then we are going to have lunch at 11:30 to 12:30. The afternoon of the Leadership Summit is going to be more focused on you all and what you all came to Washington, D.C. to do. It's going to start right after lunch with Peter Yo, who's going to be speaking about the 116th Congress, where we are in our government right now, and how that relates to the work that you all have come to Washington, D.C. to do. We're going to hear from folks from the President's Malaria Initiative and the Global Fund, the two programs that we are going to be advocating for on Capitol Hill the next day. Then you all are going to have an opportunity to hear from a few folks that are in the Champions Council or a part of our larger champion group about their experience with malaria. How did they come to get involved in this work? What are their passion areas within this body of work? And why have they come to Washington, D.C. to continue doing it with us? You'll have an opportunity to think through the talking points that have already been sent to you, what we're actually going to be saying on Capitol Hill, and practice with your Advocacy Day groups, with the folks that have come from your states and cities, what you're actually going to say when you meet with your members of Congress and their staffs. This is a really important time because you will only have a short amount of time to really think through with the folks that you'll be on the Hill with, how you want to divide up tasks, who wants to speak about what, who wants to do the introduction, the closing, the personal story, etc. We will give you all the information that you need to make sure these meetings are very successful, but it's important that you use the time in this afternoon on Monday wisely so that you are as prepared as possible to go into these meetings the next day. This will be followed by closing remarks at 5:15 and malaria trivia, I should say, quizzing you on some of the things that we will be learning throughout this summit. If you are not coming to the Hill Day, and there are only a few of you who are not coming to the Hill Day, and you also know who you are, during this preparatory period from 3:45 to 4:15, which is referred to as the dress rehearsal on the screen, you all will be meeting together to talk about other ways that you can engage your members of Congress outside of going to the Hill with us on this coming Tuesday. That can include attending an in-district meeting, hosting a small event, doing awareness building activities, all of those kinds of things. So you all will not meet with an advocacy day group because you're not going to the Hill, but we will make sure that you're doing other activities that are going to help propel our work forward. And now what you all came for, Capitol Hill Day. Tuesday, March 26th, there is a bright and early wake up time. We are going to be meeting in the hotel lobby at between 6 and 6:15 a.m. With our champions and our staff. You're going to be wearing your t-shirt that you got in your champion swag bag when you arrived at the summit, as well as formal attire. You are not going to be wearing any name tags, and you are not going to take any bags with you. At 6 a.m., we will all meet in the lobby, and you all will check out of your rooms. For those of you who are staying an extra night, and there are a few of you, you will not do this, but everyone else will check out of their rooms and store their luggage with the hotel. There will be an opportunity later in the day for you all to come back to the hotel, get your bags, and then get in a cab or take the train to your flights, trains, buses, etc. We're going to check out of our hotels at 6 a.m. And depart for the Hill on buses at 6:30. We will arrive at the Hill between 7 and 7:15, and then head to the front of the Capitol building to take a group photo, which is really important because throughout the year we use photos from our Hill Day and from our summit to kind of propel our movement forward, to show our power and the impact that we can have when we blanket Capitol Hill with advocates from all over the country. So it's a really important moment. That's going to be followed by a congressional breakfast. We are going to be hearing from two amazing members of Congress who've done some really amazing work with us, co-sponsoring a resolution commemorating the work of the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, which recently was reintroduced in the 116th Congress. Those are Congressmen Jimmy Panetta from California and Brian Mast from Florida. We're going to be hearing from them, and then after that, you all are going to meet with your advocacy day groups and head to your meetings. There are going to be meetings in the morning at 10 a.m. And meetings in the afternoon starting at around 1 p.m. In between those meetings, you will have lunch. You'll be able to see the Capitol building, talk to your staff about different areas that you want to see, walk by the Supreme Court, maybe see a few members of Congress and grab a selfie while you're walking from meeting to meeting. At around 4:30, we'll depart Capitol Hill and the summit will end. A few logistical notes about the Hill Day and what's going to happen throughout the day. If you are a coffee person and you are thinking, oh my goodness, 6 a.m. is a very early wake up time, there is a cafe in the hotel where you can get coffee in the morning. So don't worry about that. But if you are going to get coffee in the morning, you cannot be late for the bus. So if you need coffee and you know it's going to take you a few minutes to get that, you should maybe get down to the lobby a little bit earlier because the buses will be leaving promptly. And if you are not on them, we'll have to figure out another way of getting you to the Hill. So please, please, please do not be late. If you are not staying at the hotel, you are going to be meeting us at the hotel at 6:15 so that you also can board the buses at 6:30 and we can depart for Capitol Hill. If you are not staying at the hotel, you are going to meet us at the hotel between 6 and 6:15 so that we can get you on the buses as well. At the Hill, we're not going to bring any bags or backpacks or anything like that, like I said, into the buildings. It just makes security lines longer and it's a hassle. We will be feeding you breakfast and lunch on the Hill, so no need to bring anything additional. And like I said, the hotel will store all of your bags throughout the day. You'll be able to come get them after the Hill Day is over. A few other logistical items, and then I will pass it over to my colleagues. Most of you will be meeting with the members of Congress or their staffs from your permanent congressional district. When you applied for the summit, you put a permanent congressional district down. Most of you will be meeting with the office that you listed as your permanent residence. There are a few of you that are in very significant temporary congressional districts, meaning that you go to college or you have a second house in a temporary congressional district that is really significant to our work for a number of different reasons. So there are a few of you who will, instead of meeting with your member of Congress from your permanent residential area, will instead be meeting with your member of Congress from your temporary address. Our colleague Avery Manusos will be sending out emails in the next few days with some follow-up information. And for those of you who are meeting with your temporary with the member from your temporary district. She'll be sending you that information in that email. So look out for that. In that email, you will also receive information about who your roommates are at the hotel if you're staying with us at the hotel. So those are all kind of the nitty-gritty components of the summit and the agenda. There will be much more to it, obviously, but we, with a limited amount of time, want to make sure we get you as much of the information as possible. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Amma, to give you a little bit more information about logistics.
Thanks, Max. That was a really great recap of everything we need to know. Thank you for that. So for transportation, for those of you who are driving into DC for our summit, we wanted to make sure that you had plenty of options for places to park your car that would be safe and affordable. Parking at the hotel is $45 per night. If that is, out of your zone, there are options throughout DC that are, more affordable. But many of them don't have, re-entry. So if you park for the night, you're not able to take your car, take it back out, and then bring it back. You will have to pay a new entry fee. So just keep that in mind, depending on where you want to be located. If you have plans to tour DC, it's a great city for walking or train or bus. So keep all those options in mind so you can, you don't go over budget in your 3 days that you're here. We recommend leaving your car in the garage for the duration of the summit, just so you don't incur additional fees for each time that you take your car out. The hotel will have meals provided. There will be vegetarian, gluten-free, nut-free options for those with dietary restrictions that we collected during your summit registration. So we've gone, through great lengths to make sure that everyone has something to eat, and that is covered. So we'll have Sunday breakfast and lunch, and then the dinner reception will have, plenty of food available, drinks will be available, and that'll be 7 to 10. For Monday, we'll have breakfast and lunch, again, at the hotel. And then Tuesday, breakfast and lunch will both be served at the Hill. For the different teams, you'll have your assigned cafeterias. You'll be in the center of the house side, and we'll give those cards available. You'll be with your team lead, who will be assigned a card to be able to swipe for you. So again, that meal will be covered by Nothing But Net, so you don't have to worry about those expenses either. For your roommates, Avery Manusos, our colleague, is going to be emailing everyone to let you know who you'll be rooming with. This year, you have plenty of time to explore DC with this person. We want to give you time to get to know them before you arrive. If for some reason you're not able to room with the person you initially requested in your application, please know that we went through great lengths to try to get everyone together, and there'll be plenty of time to hang out with this person, get to know them between sessions, at the reception, anytime on the Hill that you're not in meetings, feel free to enjoy the scenery with this person. If for some reason there's something that you find you can't eat, please come to us and let us know. Like if you see any of us with a name tag, we can order a special meal for you. If you have an allergy that we were not previously aware of, just make us aware as soon as possible. If that means additional snacks in your bag, that's perfectly we can accommodate that. If that means a whole separate meal, just let us know, especially if you have airborne allergies that we weren't aware of. We want to make sure it's as safe and comfortable for everyone as possible. For our attire, all the sessions that will be in the Marriott, in the hotel, are business casual. For Tuesday, however, because we are meeting on the Capitol Hill and you will be having meetings with members of congressional staff or possibly member level meetings themselves, we want to make sure that you are comfortable, presentable, and feel as confident as possible in these meetings. So please be in business professional attire and make sure that you're wearing your Nothing But Net Summit t-shirt underneath. It's a great image, a great representation, not just to our partners and funders, but for everyone else that we do outreach with throughout the year, to show them how many Americans really care about this issue and how many people can be galvanized and motivated to spend a Tuesday morning on Capitol Hill advocating for something as important as malaria. So it's a really great opportunity to show how much you care with something as simple as remembering to wear your t-shirt. So have that underneath a blazer or a sports coat. You can wear dress pants, slacks, skirts. We'll be doing a lot of walking across the hill, so please make sure that you're wearing comfortable shoes. No tennis shoes, so please no sneakers. But do make sure that there's something that you're comfortable in. We'll be walking about a mile, so just make sure you're not stuck in heels. And if you have any walking mobility issues, please let us know again, and we will have accommodation for that as well. So I'm going to pass it back to Max.
Thank you, Amma. And I should say that for those folks who let us know previously about mobility issues, we already have that information, and we'll make sure to make accommodations for you folks If you did not put anything in your original application about mobility assistance, please do reach out to either Amma or myself via email, and we'll make sure that you are set up with everything you need. So how to prepare for the summit? What should you be doing right now to ensure that your time with us in Washington, D.C. is well spent and that you are as prepared as possible to meet with your members of Congress? There's a few key things that you should be doing today, tomorrow, and throughout the rest of the week before you get here to ensure that you are as prepared as possible. The first thing is to research your congressional delegation's interests and responsibilities in Congress. We all have different members of Congress. You may be going to member of Congress's offices on the Hill with folks that are not from your district. You may end up being the only person in that office who is actually from that specific district. Most of you will not be the only person from your selected state, but you may be the only person from the specific district that you're meeting with. That means that you will be the expert on that office, but only if you do research ahead of time and make sure you know who your member of Congress is, what they're about, what they care about, and whether or not this is going to be an issue that we can work with them on. So looking up the professional backgrounds of your members of Congress, the committee assignments that they have, whether they are members of any specific group or belong to any organization that may have to do with global health or military service or anything that is related to our work. You want to make sure you know about their legislative accomplishments. What have they done in the past? What are some of the things that you can talk to them about? If you have any connections to your member of Congress in any capacity, make sure you find out what those are so that after you've given your official kind of programming speech that we will be giving you talking points of, and you're just gabbing away with the staffer or the member, that you have some stuff to talk about. You can visit www.house.gov or www.senate.gov to find out who your members of Congress are if you are not aware. But make sure you are thinking about who these members are and what they are about before you get here so that you're as prepared as possible to go into these meetings. Please do not schedule any of your own meetings. Our staff is working extremely hard to make sure that you all have plenty of folks to meet with on the Hill. So don't go ahead and schedule any meetings. We are taking care of all of that for you. When you're thinking about what you're going to say in these advocacy meetings, it's important to think about why you're passionate about this. Why are you coming to Washington, D.C.? Why are you traveling all the way here to be with us for 3 days, meet with your members of Congress to talk about malaria? What is the thing that got you involved in this work? Why are you passionate about it? That is essential to connecting with this office and encouraging them to get involved with our work if they're not already involved. They need to know why you care. They don't just need to know the statistics, which are very important as well. They need to know your story. So start to think about that before you get here. If you're a current or past Champions Council member, reflect on how you've been active in our community in the past and why you continue coming back year after year. What is it about this work, about this issue, about this campaign that keeps you coming back? We want to make sure that when you go into these meetings, you don't feel nervous, you don't feel unprepared. You've thought out who you're meeting with and what you're going to say beforehand. We want to pause for a minute and see if of any of the logistical or agenda items that Amma or I talked about, you have any questions of. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box now, and we will go through them quickly, and then we will turn it over to Elizabeth. Anybody put in anything so far? Great. Okay, no questions. Doesn't look like there are any questions, which means we are clearly explaining things very well. If you do have questions that you think of throughout the next 20 minutes or so, please put them in the chat box and we will come back to everything at the end. But I am going to turn it over to Elizabeth Ivanovich, who's going to talk a little bit about the Global Fund and how you can best prepare for talking about the Global Fund on the Hill.
Great, thanks, Max. And can I get the... All right. So yeah, all of you who are trying to ask questions, you can feverishly type them into the text box right now, and we'll get to them in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So first of all, I want to talk about what the Global Fund is. And I think many of you who have been to our, oh no, apparently I don't know how to use the IT equipment. All right. Those of you who have been to our summit before have probably talked about the Global Fund on the Hill. The Global Fund is, the full name of it is the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and Malaria. It invests $4 billion per year in countries that have these diseases and the investment is made into the actual country program. So there is a process that countries use to apply for funds from the Global Fund, which is primarily a financing institution. And each country is given a certain amount of funding based on the need that they have. And so that need is related to their ability to pay for their own programs, because most of malaria financing and global health financing actually comes from domestic governments. But about 60% of the international funding for malaria comes from the Global Fund. So this is a really large pool of funds. It's about $1 billion a year that's going to malaria. And it is building the capacity of local programs to actually implement in countries. So this was founded in 2002 as primarily a response to the significant upsurge in malaria cases and also the ongoing AIDS epidemic at the time, which was beginning to peak. It works hand in hand with programs around the world, including United States programs like the President's Malaria Initiative. So over the course of the Global Fund's existence, it has helped to save 27 million lives in countries where it's worked. And that's alongside a large number of partners. So during 2017, just for example, the countries and regions where the Global Fund works have done a lot on malaria. So they've distributed 197 million mosquito nets, treated 108 million cases of malaria, treated 6 million pregnant women with preventive treatment for malaria, and that's a regular occurrence in high burden places, is where pregnant women will get treated for malaria, which is presumptive and just to protect the baby and them before delivery. It's also helped to test for 213 million suspected cases, and they have also treated 12.5 million houses with insecticides for malaria. So this year is a huge year for the Global Fund, because every 3 years the Global Fund has what's called a replenishment. And the replenishment is when countries around the world come together and provide funding to the Global Fund for the following 3-year period. So they come together with private sector, and this time around they're going to be asking for $14 billion. So I know that that sounds like a lot. The last replenishment happened in 2016, and nearly $13 billion was given. So this is a modest increase. It's about a 15% increase from the last time around. The government of France, which is the second largest donor to the Global Fund after the United States, has volunteered to host the replenishment in Lyon, France on October 10th of this year. So what will happen there is that a number of countries will make pledges, private sector will make pledges, but many of those countries will have actually already made their pledges before we even get there in October. So right now is really the most critical time for people around the world to tell their governments that they support a fully funded Global Fund. And, you know, we recognize that in order to end the epidemics of HIV, TB, and malaria, the Global Fund is essential. We know that the targets for ending those diseases are reducing malaria cases and deaths by 90%, and eliminating malaria in 35 countries is by 2030. So that, it seems like a long time from now, but actually it's right around the corner. And without the Global Fund, we will not get there, and we know that. And we really don't have any time to waste in getting there. So the theme for the Global Fund replenishment is step up the fight. And, you know, we as Nothing But Nets are fully behind the call to action, and we recognize that we really must step up the fight now. And in part, this is because we are not on track to reach the 2030 targets to reduce malaria cases and deaths by 90%. So what will this $14 billion achieve? Well, in the countries where the Global Fund works with partners, 16 million lives will be saved between 2017 and 2023. So some of the work towards that target has already taken place, and some of it is yet to come and will rely on this funding. So They have also, with that money, reduced malaria. They plan to reduce malaria cases by 25% and deaths by 43%. So you can see below in the charts, there's malaria cases is on the left and malaria deaths is on the right. You can see where we are. That's the black line. The goal that we're going for is this dark blue line on the bottom. So you can see we're already going a little bit off of track, particularly for cases and a little bit for deaths. Without scale up, what we expect to happen is that we will hit this red line, because malaria is a disease which, without continued increase in effort, will come back with a vengeance. And so we know we cannot take our foot off the gas pedal right now. So in this time period, we're also hoping that the Global Fund will be able to help distribute 1.7 billion mosquito nets. And I'll put that into context here. So far, since the year 2000, there have been nearly 2 billion mosquito nets that have been distributed. So this would be a really significant undertaking to, in just 3 years period of time, be able to get to that 2.7 billion number. They also plan to treat 545 million cases and eliminate malaria from 5 countries alongside the national governments of those countries. So the impact of the Global Fund could be tremendous if it is fully funded. So what's the U.S. role in this? The U.S. has been a huge leader in the Global Fund. So traditionally, the U.S. has provided 1/3 of the overall replenishment amount. And what that means is that every dollar that the U.S. provides, that dollar is matched by $2 from other donors. So the hope is that the 2019 replenishment will continue this trend of the U.S. providing 1/3 of the overall resources. That would be $1.56 billion per year for 2020 to 2022. It would be the first increase from the U.S. government for the Global Fund in 6 years. And so we have to recognize that there has been inflation that has gone on during that time as well. And it's about a 15% increase from the previous pledge. The challenge that we are facing right now is that the president's budget came out last week. And while Congress will not accept that budget as is, there are mechanisms that the administration, the president's office, is trying to use in order to drop the match that the U.S. will provide to the Global Fund. So instead of being able to provide $1 for every $3, the administration would like to drop that to $1 for every $3. So an increase of $1 in the match. And so what does that mean? It means that the replenishment will likely decrease the overall amount by at least 800 million. So we will not reach the $14 billion target if the US government chooses to do that. So one thing that we're hoping is that by voicing our support for the Global Fund on Capitol Hill, recognizing the important role that it plays in the world and how it partners with important US programs like the President's Malaria Initiative, that we can try to overcome this challenge and help convince the US government to, instead of reducing its commitment to the Global Fund, to actually increase the commitment. And we have heard from Congress that they are willing to do that, but this does create an additional challenge. So if we're looking at just the regular increase that's being asked for from what the US government is providing today, we need to look at what that will buy. So a $210 million increase, that's per year of the contribution of the US to the Global Fund, would buy an additional 1.19 million households receiving indoor spraying against mosquitoes to protect from malaria. It would also result in almost $4 billion in broader health gains and economic returns. And it would also distribute over 11 million additional mosquito nets. So it's really a tangible increase that we're talking about. And you can see on this slide that there are also effects that it's going to have on TB and HIV, which I will not go over just because we're much more focused on malaria. But the impact of the Global Fund in those areas is as much as it is on malaria. So how can we make this replenishment a success? So I think we've talked a little bit about the need to advocate to Congress to support the Global Fund, and we will have a lot of opportunity to do that on Tuesday of next week. And then also, I think coming into the meetings, being prepared for the meetings is really helpful. Because, you know, if you go into your congressman's or congresswoman's office and you stumble over the name, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, TB, and Malaria, they're not going to feel like you're that committed to the cause, right? So I want to make sure that everyone here is really comfortable talking about the Global Fund. And one way to become comfortable with that is by reading the investment case summary for the Global Fund replenishment. And so we will be circulating that in the coming days to everyone to be able to prepare. Also, I'll just say I'm going to be at the summit the whole time. I know a lot about the Global Fund. I spend most of my time thinking about it and advocating for it. And so if you have any questions about it, you know, obviously right now is a great time to ask them, but if you think of something later on, I'll be there and I can kind of help walk you through and get more comfortable with the Global Fund, the replenishment, and all of that. And we'll have a number of different sessions that will touch on this as well. So I think that's it for me right now. We're going to move on to more questions either about the Global Fund or any of the logistics.
Great. Thanks, Elizabeth. So this is everyone. If you have any questions, I know some of you have been asking them in the chat box, and Amma's been getting to those throughout. I'm going to go to the Q&A box there. My flight is a little early on Tuesday. Would it be okay if I leave about an hour early on Tuesday? That is a great question. If you have flights that are early on Tuesday, please let us know if you're going to end up having to leave till before 4:30, before the 4:30 cutoff, so that we can make a note of that and make sure that the meetings that we're scheduling not fall in that time. So thanks, Peter. We will write that down and follow up later when we've had a chance to look at our meeting times. Can we bring a notepad and folder with us to the Hill? That's a great question. We're going to be providing you with a notepad when you come to the summit. Make sure that you have something to write on. If you would like to bring an additional notebook to the Hill and a pen, that is totally fine as well. You're going to be given some materials to bring to the Hill to leave the congressional offices. If you want to bring a notepad or the notepad that we give you and a pen to take notes, that is wonderful. Other than a notepad and the folders that we give you beforehand, please don't bring so as to not fog up. When should we expect the emails regarding roommates? That's a fantastic question. Our hope is to get you your roommates by the end of Wednesday. Avery Manusos, one of our colleagues, will be sending out those emails with your roommates, as well as information about the offices that you're meeting with if you're not meeting with your member of Congress permanent. So those hopefully will be coming out in the next few days. Our hope is by the end of Wednesday. Are we going to be speaking one-on-one with congressmen and women or any of the others, or will it be groups the entire time? That's a great question. You will be in groups, in delegations throughout the entire day on Hill Day. That may be a group that is entirely people from your home state. For example, if you are from California, you are going to be with other people from California the entire day. But if you're from a smaller state or a state where we have less folks coming to the summit, you may be with folks from a few different states and attend meetings with all of those people throughout the day. There will not be any one individual who goes to a meeting by themselves. And something that I should have said before to keep in mind is that you also will not have to find your way to any of these meetings by yourselves. We'll have a staff member from the UN Foundation, either from the Nothing Minutes itself or from the larger UN Foundation, to escort you to each of your legislative meetings and help you through thinking about, what are you going to say in this meeting that's different than the last meeting? What went really well in the last meeting that we want to make sure we replicate in the next one? And what didn't go so well? What could we say a little bit differently to be more effective in the meeting? So if you're a little bit nervous about this and it seems like kind of a big deal to be getting yourselves to these meetings, don't worry. We will be there every step of the way. Make sure that you not only get to the meetings, but that you also feel comfortable when you arrive.
So we have a question about attire to reiterate the rules that we went over. So the first 2 days, Sunday and Monday, in the hotel will be business casual. If you want, we can go over like what that looks like. So comfortable dress pants, slacks, dark colored pants, dress shirts, polos, things like that. Something professional, but also casual and comfortable. And then Tuesday, because it is a more professional setting, we will be in the offices of our congressmen and women. It'll be business professional. So, slacks and a blazer, a sports coat, a dress, skirt, different options like that. So again, Sunday, Monday, business casual, Tuesday, business professional, with your Nothing But Nets t-shirt underneath.
All right. We also have a question about when we expect the U.S. to put in its pledge to the Global Fund, whether or not this is dependent on Congress's update to the president's budget. So right now is the time that Congress will start looking at the president's budget and creating their own budget. And we do have positive signals from them that they do want to provide a $1.56 billion per year pledge. As I think many of us have seen with some of the government shutdowns and other challenges as of late, it is not clear entirely when Congress will finish their budget, but we do hope that that will happen sometime before the replenishment conference in October. So what we're expecting is that the U.S. probably will not provide a pledge until the actual replenishment conference, unlike some other countries. So for example, Ireland and Luxembourg already announced increases, and a couple of other countries were expecting to announce early, but we don't think that the U.S. will do that.
All right. We have a question about, as a malaria survivor, is this an appropriate place to share my story? The answer is absolutely yes. We don't want anybody sharing stories on Capitol Hill that they don't feel comfortable sharing, but a big part of meeting with your members of Congress and their staffs is getting them to relate to you and getting them to care about the issues that you're talking about. And one of the best ways of doing that, and we'll be talking a lot more in depth about this at the summit, is storytelling. Telling your story. Why is this something that you care about? Why is this something that you took time out of your life to attend? So if you are a malaria survivor, have been to a malaria endemic country, have family that have suffered from the disease, or have intimate relations with the disease in other capacities, that's a really important thing to share with these offices. Show them that this is something their constituents care about, whether they have had malaria themselves or for some other reason they care about this issue. That is essential to getting your member of Congress there as well. All right. I think our group will need to leave around 1 to 1:30 Capitol Hill, as we will need to head back, grab our bags at the hotel, catch our 4 p.m. flight back home. That's a good question. We will check back in with you after we've checked with our government relations person who's scheduling all the meetings. 1:30 is a little bit early to leave the Hill, so we may come up with some alternate options for making sure you're on the Hill as long as possible, whether it's having other folks bring your bags to the Hill and leaving directly or something else, but we will be in contact with you about leaving the Hill at that. Looks like we went through all of the questions. If there are any more, we'll sit on here for a few minutes to make sure there are any additional questions. So if you're thinking about something and want to ask it, now is the
Hi, so with the purses, it's fine to, bring a small bag. Just keep in mind that they do search them. So Simple things like if you're planning to wear jewelry or things like that, understand that depending on which house you're going into, it could be the inconvenience of taking it off. Scarves, big jackets, things that it's basically airport rules. So if you have a large bag, keep it sparse, keep it small, nothing too cluttered. And you're able to bring it in. It's just gonna have to go through a scanner. So it's just, if you don't want the inconvenience of that, don't bring it. But if you want to bring small personal items, that's fine. Just nothing large.
All right, and someone asked if there are other means to protect people from malaria aside from mosquito nets, and the answer is yes, definitely. There's spraying, indoor spraying of houses, and then there are some new mechanisms that are being tested for use. But I think, we recognize that mosquito nets are the best prevention mechanism, the most inexpensive prevention mechanism that exists today. And that more research is needed to ensure that we have a large range of different commodities that can be used to prevent malaria. We will be talking about this at the summit, so everyone will get a little bit more information on it.
Someone asked if they signed up for multiple webinars, if they have to worry about canceling the other ones. The answer is absolutely not. We love that you signed up for multiple, and we will make sure to mark down the tonight. I'll be attending tomorrow, so don't worry about it. Okay, so we have a question about someone who lives in DC and has a test Monday afternoon. And okay, missed that part of the summit. If you are part of one of our GlobeMed chapters, which I think the person is, if I'm not mistaken, and you need to leave at any point throughout the summit, Amma Boateng is going to be your point of contact. You need to let her know when you need to leave, at what point, and check in and out, because she's managing the relationships with the GlobeMed chapters. So make sure if you are needing to leave at a certain time throughout the summit, that Amma knows ahead of time and that you check in with her when you are leaving and then when you get back.
And if you are a member of one of the GlobeMed chapters, assuming so, since you'll have exams in the area, please make sure that you attend our upcoming GlobeMed specific webinar. It'll have more information on the requirements for your chapter, for your grant, for your personal check-in and check-out, as Max mentioned, and what that looks like per day. I don't want a situation where you leave for an exam and then your absence is marked against your team. And if you're not able to make tomorrow night's webinar, just make sure that you email me ahead of time so we can set up a one-on-one call and I can work with you to get you the information you need. Thanks.
We just got a question, can we use our electronics and have them with us in these meetings? You absolutely can have your electronics with you. You'll have to go through a metal detector, like Amma said, when you go into the Hill meetings, but you can have them with you. The second part of the question is, can we record the members of Congress as they speak? The answer to that is no. There are a lot of different procedures you have to go through and things that you have to get signed in order to record members of Congress on Capitol Hill. You're not going to be able to record them. What you can do, however, is take notes about the things that they say, whether or not they are going to be supportive of these things, etc. And we can use that in the coming weeks and months to contact them and talk to them about these issues, what they said in the meeting, what they committed to, etc. So definitely come, bring notebooks and pens, take notes. You can also always ask a member of Congress or their staff member, and we encourage it. Take a picture at the end of your meeting so that we have kind of that moment recorded via photo. But no, you will not be able to record your member of Congress or their staff in those meetings. Oh, I'm sorry, Devin. That was confusing. But yes, you're not a part of the GlobeMed chapters and you are needing to leave during any portion of the summit, please also let Amma know. so that you can be in touch about those items, even if you're not a part of one of the Globe Run chapters. Are you allowed to give your representatives gifts from your state, like a small token? Yes, absolutely. Keep in mind that there are going to be other folks in your meetings, so bringing a large gift from just you can be a little bit awkward, but if you know that your group is going to be relatively small, if you're a Champions Council member and you've done this before and you want to bring something small to an office that you've been to before or that you have a relationship with, there's nothing wrong with that. Looks like we got through all of the ones that you all sent. If there are any last minute ones, we're going to stay on for 1 or 2 more minutes, give you all a chance to type those up, and we'll say goodnight. So take 1 or 2 more minutes to think about your questions and write them in, and then we will be done.